That's fine.
Yeah, there's like one.
Hey, this is Jen Healy, and I'm hanging out with my new dear friend Dalia, who's over in New York. And we wanted to continue the conversation and talk about some of the most important things we learned from the latest QHHT training. We were just taking the level 2 training over in Miami. It's March 2020. And we had such an amazing experience together that I just wanted to keep sharing. So we're going to start doing these videos on a regular basis if all goes well.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I wanted to just share a little bit about my experience, both giving and receiving sessions there, and what was the next level for me, how it up-leveled my practice. And then I wanted to give Dalia an opportunity to chime in and talk about what was important to her. So I had the honor and pleasure to give Dalia a session. So maybe she would be comfortable starting with that and tell us, recap a little bit about her session.
Yeah, my session was really great. It was one of my best so far. I only received maybe 4 sessions total, but this was very remarkable, just how tapped in I was into my SC. And I think it's got to do with like how you handled the entire session from the very beginning, like during the interviewing process and up to the SC and like formulating the questions. And in the session itself, you were very attentive, and it just helped me go deeper, and it helped me connect more to my SC. And I finally understood what the SC is, like in my own experience. And it's kind of like an overarching bird eye view of things. And it gave me the perspective I needed, where I could see myself from just this higher perspective and keep myself in check in a way, but also at the same time understand my higher purpose. And it was just so beautiful how it unraveled in our session. It was really great discovery for me. How was it for you? Like just going through the whole thing?
Yeah, let's go back and forth and talk about it, because it was really juicy to work. You were the last person I worked on. So I felt like that was a huge benefit, because you got me at the end of 6 days. And not only did I learn so much from getting sessions, but giving a session, taking everything into account that I had just experienced, was such a godsend. And I think we talked on Monday or something. So we were gonna do a session together and more in the middle of the week. And I'm actually glad we got a longer drop in. We probably spent about 5 or 6 hours together total, because we were like driving and, you know, doing all kinds of cool stuff. We actually stopped and had lunch. So I felt like I got such a deeper drop in with you. And this allowed for a true heart connection to be established. And I think that's really key. And I really also appreciated the spots where, you know, it gets really vulnerable telling the depth of a story, a life story. And what I noticed is, like, even if we hit something that was uncomfortable, it was like, that's okay. You know, we stopped and watched the sunset. We had all these moments to establish a deeper relationship of trust. And I think that's really key. We really want to make sure that not only are we connecting, you know, as a practitioner, but the client is connecting. It is a mutually beneficial or benefiting relationship. And that was really, really precious. That was really special to me. Plus, I just really appreciate you and adore you as a person, and was genuinely interested. And that is what the session really needs to be. It's a little helpful when, you know, there's a connection, but we can establish that with anybody. You just happen to be really cool.
Thank you. I mean, I feel the same way. You were awesome, actually. And I totally agree about the heart connection and the trust. And I think that's what really stepped up the session for me, and what made it really so high frequency. Because I really felt that you cared. I really felt that you were listening and you were paying attention to everything I said. You were not just conducting a session, which a lot of practitioners feel like they need to do more. They need to just like get the number ticked off, like, oh, I did 23, oh, I did 25, oh, I did 30. And I feel like that's not the point, because you can have just one really life-changing session, and it could be like mastership of work. And so it's not about the quantity, it's about really how like connected you are to the practitioner. That's what really just heightens the entire experience on so many levels. So I was able to actually go deeper because of that. And I remember other sessions that I had with other practitioners, and they are lovely human beings, but it was a different intention. I feel the intention was more about how do they hone their craft, how do they make a really good session according to the book. And I'm not saying don't go by the book, but also follow your heart and follow your intuition. And just remember that these are two human beings sitting with each other, and connection is key. If that is not established, then all the procedures are kind of pointless in a way, because it has to click first. The heart-to-heart connection, that's where the magic really happens.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I did find that when I was getting sessions, which I felt like I learned the most by getting sessions. It was so cool because I don't have that opportunity as much here back in California. But getting a session taught me so much. It taught me what to do and what not to do. And I have a whole list of things, and I'm going to share this in the description in the notes. So everybody who does want those little tips, that tidbit of information, I want to share them. But, you know, I really got, first and foremost, that the SC is running the show from beginning to end, from interview to post-session. The SC has got it. And if we really trust that and know that, and as a practitioner, we can just show up and allow and be present with the person, like really present, totally open, like everything and anything goes, and relax into that space of not knowing. It's like it's handled. And that's a big deal for me, because I of course want to get the techniques down. I actually want to get them perfect. That's just kind of my personality, and that can get in the way, because that becomes like a more heady experience that the client's picking up on. Like if you're overthinking it and wondering where to go next, you've completely lost the connection. You've lost them. Do you know what I mean, Dalia?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it was so important to me to receive sessions from several different people, and just notice, similar to what Dalia is saying, some people were just trying to get through it, and you could sense that. We also had super long days, so, you know, meeting each person with complete compassion. And it was just really important, the quality of the presence. And that is not something that you can learn in the book. That's something that you have to experience and just hone by practicing with people who are willing to be honest enough to share like the truth, right? So I think feedback is really important. So I also wanted to do this video to offer people feedback, but to do it in a way that isn't talking about like what went wrong or what they didn't do, but for me, what I noticed to be the most important thing. And it's totally okay that we're practicing with each other. As practitioners, we need to learn, right? And sometimes we learn what not to do before we learn what to do. And so one of the most important things that I got was, you know, the SC is handling this. Be present, be in your heart, be open, be allowing, but also really be with them with the tone. I noticed that people are they're reading the script, but you don't want to sound like you're reading a script. You know what I mean? Yeah. I think that just takes practice. I'm not an actress or anything like that. I know it's really challenging, but you have to know it. It has to be in your heart, and reading it slow and methodical and all that. We went over voice and tone, but to keep that soft tone throughout the session. I noticed that when other practitioners got to the questioning, like asking questions, and especially to the SC, and especially at the end, that their tone just got more rushed and more like abrupt. It wasn't as smooth and soft. And I think that really makes a difference, because you're still wanting to be like, and what else is happening? And, you know, why is that? Like just really coming from that tone of curiosity and that softening, just like you would be on the phone with your best friend and be like, no way, what happened next? That kind of thing. So you don't have to use the same induction tone throughout the whole thing, but the tone still needs to be really soft and really inviting and really nurturing, right? So always encouraging the person, reassuring the client, and making sure they know you're with them, like you got them.
Yeah, that was kind of my experience working with you, because I felt like the tone stayed in the softness and this very inviting, welcoming, please tell me more. I'm listening. I actually want to know. I'm curious with you. We're on this journey of discovery together. This really helped me be more comfortable during the SC, because you know how the conscious mind is a bit aware still, even when you're in that deeper level. And that conscious mind could have kicked in at any moment and could have been blocked at any moment, or felt insecure to share certain things or to let the SC come through. But with your guidance and help in, like, you know, making it easier for me and more invited, I felt more empowered to give the SC my voice and to let it say what it wants to say, and it really calmed down the conscious mind, the guard dog who was trying to come in there and interfere. But that hasn't been my experience with you. Whereas in other sessions, I felt like once they were done with the induction and the softness, once it was time to ask the questions, they got really excited and almost forgot that the client is still in a deep trance, and that need to be handled with so much care because they're at their most vulnerable in these deep states. And so it almost, you don't want to treat this like a journalistic press conference, because that's where it leans towards sometimes. And it becomes like, okay, here's my first question, here's my second question, why? And like, we just need to remember that this is a slow process of unfolding, that you're really holding space for very high vibrational energy to come through. And that needs to be handled with care and with patience and with delicacy. And thankfully, you know, Dolores Cannon's procedure is bulletproof. It's perfect as it is, and it always works. So I've never had a session where I don't get to the SC and I don't get answers, but it's a matter of fine tuning and really being present with your full embodied energy for someone else, for another human being. And that becomes the medicine. And that becomes the beauty, the real beauty and the real magic of the work. And that's what makes one practitioner different from the other. You know, it's not the same, even though the procedure is the same, but actually it's never the same. It's really comes down to how you're embodied in the moment and how present you are throughout.
Exactly. Yeah, thank you for that. Because I noticed that the conscious mind is riding right there, you know, watching and present with the SC. But if we really do feel safe and dropped in, then the conscious mind will relax back. And then the SC has an opportunity to just take the conversation, take the questions to another level. So a couple of things came up when you talked. For one, a lot of people that I worked with were just reading off the questions, kind of like checking them off, like you were saying, like a journalistic interview or press conference. And it really is important. I feel like so much critical, juicy information was lost. It didn't get a chance to really surface, because the deeper the question, the deeper the answer. So you just want to peel back the layers. And we even did this together in the interview process, and you were so great about working the questions together. So we were really in it together. And I think that makes a huge difference for me as the person who's guiding, to be able to be there with you.
Absolutely. I can chime in on that. Because for me, the magic really happened in the interview before the session.
Yeah.
That's where I was able to actually hone in on the need underneath the question. And that was what was so amazing about working with you, because you always peeled the layers, you know, like an onion peel, one layer until you get to the heart of the matter. And from that heart of the matter, you really know what kind of question do you actually want to ask, because sometimes the client has questions that they need really answers for, but not necessarily need-based questions, because sometimes we need things but we don't even realize what we need or what will make us feel better, or what is the missing ingredient. Sometimes it becomes a blind spot, and I feel like the practitioner's role is to help clear out those blind spots and shed light on them, and through this delicate like process of figuring out the true nature, that the heart of the true questions that will actually benefit the clients, even though they might not know it already.
Exactly.
So that was really, really helpful.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and I really enjoyed the process. I mean, that's the thing, is you care, and I am so interested, and I want to be involved with you in the whole experience, intimately involved, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I was saying in class. And for me, I feel like that is a benefit in this arena, where there was something that would come up, and if it was any sort of like, when there was a discomfort or something that was hard to share, instead of making the person like drudge through these old memories, I was just inviting you to pose it as a question for the MC to, and that felt like it was really helpful even in the interview process. Do you want to talk about that a little bit too, Dalia?
Yeah, I've had a few moments that felt like kind of uncomfortable for me, and I didn't necessarily want to go there. But you were not determined to revisit any painful memories of mine or anything that I didn't want to. In fact, you were so versatile and flexible about how it was almost like a dance. And I feel like it's true for a lot of this work. It's like you don't want to step on each other's feet. You just want to maneuver around each other in a way that creates flow, in a way that allows the other person to move freely in the direction that they wish. So it's not about guiding the conversation into any specific direction. It's about feeling the energy and following where it wants to go. And for me, this was really helpful, because my energy, when we had the session, I was about not wanting to revisit old narratives. I know my story, and I've been there, and I've told it quite a few times all my life and throughout different sessions. And so I wanted to do something a little bit different. And I think you really understood that, and you were so comfortable, and you were so flexible, and you were welcoming that approach. And you sort of worked around with where my energy wants to go. And you didn't try to impose or direct it in any way. And we ended up visiting some of these memories and some of these old stories, but it was through a different lens. It was through the lens of how are they affecting your present moment right now? And that just changed the entire mechanism, because it's not about reiterating the same old story. It's about shifting the perspective to where it really lands, to what is the need for me right now or for the client right now. And that really becomes what you want to focus on in terms of the core of the session.
Yeah, and that's where transformation can happen. It was really beautiful to be with you in that process, and thank you for being so open when we were dialoguing about it. And it is about being creative too, because like when like a sticky spot comes up for a client and they're just like, you know what, I don't really want to go there, but I can feel, you know, how it's holding up the whole like process in themselves. Like there's a big block, and if they really want that healing or release, they're going to have to somehow address that block, but you don't have to go backwards to address it, because it's always showing up in the now.
Yeah.
So it's great you're with us. So then we can talk about how it's showing up now, and typically talk about like, how do we want that to change? How would we like that to be different? Who do we want to be moving forward now that we had that experience in the past that we've been kind of dragging it around with us? And so I'm going to pop back into the questions again, because that was so key for me, and why I enjoyed this process so much with you, and why you were really willing to play with me and just explore in a new way. And I really love that. And so when I was receiving sessions, I just noticed that the person's questions were either pulling me up out of that SC state, or they were dropping me deeper in. based on the quality of the question, based on the tone of the question, based on the intentionality of the practitioner, to either like get the question done or to really be with source energy. This is huge. Like as a practitioner, we get to hang out with infinite intelligence that's pulsing through this person. Like that is such a huge honor and privilege. Every session that I've experienced is really a session for me as well as the client. Like you were literally tapping into infinite intelligence. Like I just hold this space with so much reverence, and it for like especially Dalia. Oh my God! Like we really just we were talking to Toth. We were just out there. She doesn't mind me sharing a few tidbits, but man, I just I didn't want the session to end. It was so amazing, and if as a practitioner you're coming to the questions with that much curiosity, it's like literally walking up to the gates of heaven and dialing up God, right? It's like every one of our higher selves is communicating with one another on that plane. And as a practitioner, if we're approaching it with that much graciousness, then it allows the SC to come forward even more, right? Even more, an even deeper experience. So there are the questions that are written down, but then there's the dialogue and the conversation with higher self that I wanted to just hold in the highest regard.
Oh, thank you for saying that, because that was actually key for me to also explore the SC more widely and go into these higher dimensions, into the vastness of the universe and how it was created, and connecting with those higher dimensional entities. And part of it, I felt that you were so good at bringing in the questions in a way that doesn't bring that frequency lower. Like you're talking about the creation of galaxies and universes and toroidal fields and the black holes, supermassive black holes.
Yes.
And you want to ask about the pain in my knee. So how do you do that? How do you balance out the really human questions that are related to the physical body, to this 3D experience, when you're with that really higher dimensional entity? And it takes quite a talent and maneuverability to do that in a way that doesn't create blockages, that doesn't create a frequency like stutter or a hiccup of some sort. You want to flow with the SC, and that's what you were doing. You were just going there. You were going there with me, allowing me to go deeper and vaster and expand more. But at the same time, you were able to ask the questions, the 3D questions, in such a way that was really seamless. And it was not like it wasn't like a poke out of a sudden in the energy. It was really smooth, and you really knew how much energy wants to come through. So some of the bigger questions, there's a lot that wants to come through. Some of the bigger concepts, there's a lot of information. And what I felt in your session, that I was allowed the time and patience to explore those really big themes. While in other sessions, I sometimes wouldn't be able to answer fully a question because I felt rushed. And because sometimes the practitioners feel a little nervous when the SC takes time to answer. And so they want to just keep talking and ask the next question, while really there is just, you're translating this really high vibrational knowledge. And it takes time to translate that into human language and to formulate it into sentences that you can understand, while still the conscious mind not resisting. So it is a very complicated process and it takes time. So I want to say that it is okay if the client takes a little bit of time to formulate the answer. And it doesn't mean that the signal is wearing off or is being cut out. It just means that the concepts are so large and they need more time and more patience to be allowed to come through.
Yes, exactly. And it's really just about engaging them. So I was engaging, your SC or engaging the different past lives or parallel lives or whatever they were, the intergalactic lives that we were exploring. Yeah. And I was just staying present and engaged with the process, which allowed more and more of it to unfold. And I felt the same way, that my sessions were rushed, where I kept having to say, well, hold on a minute, I'm still doing a scan, or hold on, you know, and I found that in past sessions that my clients were so engrossed in an experience, and I took them too quickly to another life, or too quickly out of a scene where they were just about to have a breakthrough. So that goes back to trusting the SC is showing them and guiding them and leading them into specific elements of their visualization and imagination, and the symbols and memories, the pictures and the feelings. And if we, the deeper we drop into that experience and story with them, the deeper that they're going to go in the connection to the SC when we get to that part.
I totally, yeah, sorry for interrupting.
No, that was the huge aha for me. Like, oh, when I was on the receiving end, that was the first time that I could feel that. It wasn't just about seeing the images or describing this or that. It was about feeling it, getting the story, getting the experience, beyond just the story, getting the full experience, letting the client get the full experience and getting it with them. So it was much more of like a feeling-based session, and just that open, curious place that we need to be in is not a mental sphere at all. It is something that we have to really just be in the trust in the process. Kind of like you and I are both like holding hands with your SC, and we're walking together.
Yeah, that's a beautiful, beautiful image. And yeah, what you said about engaging the SC, I think resonated with me so much, because you also got to put into account that you're talking to different people, and each SC has a different style and a different character that comes through, and a different fusion of like SC / conscious mind / person, human person 3D. It's all very different from one person. So some people, they just, once you give them the mic, they just know how to express themselves freely and use the words. Some other people, they answer in like short answers. And so you really want to understand how to work with each style of SC and how to cater to their needs. So I felt like what you said about experiencing with them, that it is an experiential state of being, not really mental per se. It's about tuning into the different characters that you're speaking to, and really understanding, how do you engage them more? Do you ask more questions? Do you ask longer questions? Do you give them a cue to allow them to speak freely and more freely to you? Do you make them feel like there's all the time in the world, like say more, and give out that energy? And so just catering intuitively to what each SC needs to really fully come through with all the richness that it really can, because they really are infinite energy. It's like infinite intelligence, and we are tapping into that. And that's what's so great about QHHT and this type of work. It's just magnificent.
It's so beautiful. Yeah, thank you for sharing all that. It's so amazing because you're touching upon all the things I wanted to talk about. I really appreciate that so much. Like, one of the most important questions that I found was to, after anything that has been explored, to ask, is there anything else? Is there anything else that you're feeling? Is there anything else you're noticing? Is there anything else that you would like to share? And that invitation is so amazing, because we don't know exactly what's going on for them or how to pose the question to get the desired result. So you just ask them, is there anything else? So it was so helpful to just, and that represents like just letting them feel like they have all the space and time in the world to explore this. Is there anything else? Because we might not have asked something. So that goes back to the importance of the questions. And I have a whole document that I made of the best questions that I found and that I experienced, the ones that didn't work well for me, I kind of massaged them or reworked them to see what I would have wanted to hear. And then the ones that really did work. And so I just made a huge list of those, and I'll share that with you guys too. After the video is done, I wanted to share some documents with everyone in case you find it helpful. I really just wanted to do this not only to have an excuse to hang out with Dali again, but to really share with you guys what works, what didn't work, what we experienced, why we had such a great session, what would make a better session. There's no doing this wrong, which is so fascinating because we really do have to trust that there's something else leading the sessions. And it's not normal. It's not like our normal day-to-day lives where we're so kind of action-oriented and doing-oriented. We're having to engage the other side of our brain, right? So we're wanting our clients to drop into a theta state, which is utilizing the right side of the brain. Well, if we are in left brain and if we're in mental mode during our sessions, that energy is being entrained in the quantum field and they're picking up on that. So I even had like the one practitioner tell me, like as soon as I came out, that I wasn't in the SC the whole time. That was just me talking. Like you never want to say that to a person who was super dropped in and then the practitioner missed it. And so she was talking to me like I wasn't as deep in a state as I was. And so she really missed out on that whole experience of talking to infinite intelligence. And it's just like, imagine just the same thing, like you're talking to somebody and you're assuming that they're like really dumb and they're Einstein, you know what I mean? And you're like, oh, this person doesn't know anything. And then later you find out like, oh my God, that was Einstein. So it's like, we don't ever want to make those kind of assumptions that are coming from our head, because really any sort of doubt or any sort of fear that the practitioner is bringing into the session is going to drop their SC down. Right? And we had this little chart. I really appreciated that last day that Julia taught, where she was showing how the consciousness and the SC work together and how they might blip up and come back down again. And that's okay, because it's not just like a flat line or a straight line, it's a wave. And then the deeper and deeper they go, the more that the conscious mind can drop off and relax, because the guard dog can relax because it has a little bone to chew on. And then the subconscious can really kick in. And that's when that deeper knowledge and deeper wisdom, that those insights are just waiting for us to prepare the field, to prep the field and fluff it for them to come through.
Absolutely. And you are holding a particular frequency, energy frequency. You are holding that quantum field around clients when you're holding space for them. So the deeper and more aligned you are, the more accepting you are, the more free they will be. And I want to reiterate what you said about asking is there more question? Is there something that we haven't asked about? Because I remember I had an experience with a client and the SC went on a different track. It was so different from everything we talked about, all the questions. And it just came out of nowhere. And I was like, wow, there is some truth here that is being shared that the client never actually shared with me in the session. And I was just, first of all, so happy that the SC felt comfortable to come through in that way and really give advice about like a topic that the SC felt was really, really important, that the client was not even touching on in their conscious state of mind. And so I felt the privilege to hold space for that. But at the same time, I understood that, I want to work with these themes, because if the SC brought them up, then they must be really, really important. And so always be ready for surprises, because you never know what the SC will bring. Always be ready and versatile and flexible to just visit some of these different themes and areas, and really go with it and trust that the SC holds the client in their best regards and really wants the best for them. You're only facilitating that experience for them.
Yeah, again, you're just not nailing them right down my list. So the whole idea of just go with it, because this is the client's session. It's not the practitioner's session. It's not their place. There is, of course, honoring the interview and the questions that came up, but to trust that the SC does know better, and what is coming through and coming forth is exactly what needs to. no matter what it looks like, because of course we're going to have opinions, of course we're going to have our own interpretations, and that's okay. But it is like a journey. It is like reading a novel and then being like, oh, what's going to happen now? Oh, I wonder what twist in the plot is coming here. So we'll probably just, we'll probably take about 5 more minutes and then wrap it up, just to keep the videos at least a little bit on the shorter side. But I wanted to make sure that I went through and just did a little recap. The importance to go deep with the questions to get the deeper answers, just leaving you guys with that little nugget. That was so key, like asking the why, asking what else about that, asking like, can you go into an example or be more specific, or is there anything in particular that that answer relates to? Like just keep going with like I noticed in my sessions that I received as well, whatever surface answer or what, the SC will just give the surface answer to the surface question, like life purpose or where to be or location, things like that. Dalia and I had the most incredible time exploring not only like where she should be, but why, and what, like all the analogies and examples that came through were so beautiful. And really, like I said, I got so much out of it. It was such a healing for me. And then to really listen, feel, be present, allow, stay connected, and be in your heart. That is literally the entire session.
That's the magic. Yeah. And I want to add something about that when you're done.
Yeah. Well, I just had one more thing, which is to bring love and compassion and the patience to the session, because the client can really feel when you're loving it, when you're right there with them and having compassion for them and just being patient with the unfolding, just whatever goes, just letting them know that it's there's nothing off limits here. Like it's all welcomed. That just feels so good to be a client and know that you're just held in that sacred space.
Absolutely. And just from my experience again of working with you and being on the receiving end of your session, what really made a huge difference for me is how relatable you are and how much you shared of your own like insights throughout the session. So I feel like I want to say that don't be scared to really be authentically you. And if you feel like there is something in your experience that resonates with what's being said, don't be scared to share some of that. And it's not about like hijacking the session, because it is the client session. And even if you're sharing some of your own insights, it is to serve that purpose. And so in our session, I really felt not only heard, but also I felt like you know exactly what I was talking about because you've experienced something similar. And that made the hugest difference for me, because I don't want to be saying something personal and just getting the other practitioner just nodding and like, oh, that must have felt so bad, that must have felt so hard or whatever. Like I appreciate that.
Right? When they're like, oh, tell me more. And it's like, well, wait, like.
It's like, it's like this, a lot of what the things that are being shared in the interview are very personal. And a lot of them, these memories or these events in our lives are just very vulnerable places and are very personal. And for me, what really helped me open up for Jen is like, I felt she really knew what I was talking about. She was not just nodding. She was not just wanting to go deeper for the sake of it. She really just wanted to connect, and she was very empathetic. And I felt how authentic and truly heartily tapped in to me she was. And that made the session go on a whole other level for me. And that's why this specific experience with you was very different than any of the other sessions I received, because there is a shared resonance. So if you're looking for a practitioner, look for someone you can actually talk to, someone you feel comfortable talking to, and that you feel that they can understand your experience from their own life experience. We're all human beings in the end, and there's so many people who know the procedure and know how to conduct a successful session, but there are so very few people who will know exactly what you're talking about when you say it, who will have a a gateway to your experience and meet you there and offer offer insights and offer perspective. And my perspective, that's where the healing happens. And so I was receiving a lot of healing from Jen Healy in the interview, like prior to the session. And I was just happy to like, okay, I think I've had my session already, like just in the interview, because of how rich it was and how heartily connected and in tune she was to me and to my life story. And she made me feel really seen and understood. And that for me was magic. So thank you again. It was such an incredible experience.
You're such a dear, and it really is true. Like, I just feel you so much. And it really was about, it's not like our lives have been the same, because you grew up in Egypt and I grew up in Philadelphia. So I was relating, like, it doesn't matter where on the globe we've been located, there are certain universal truths or certain themes that come through in our lives. And that's what we can relate to. We don't have to relate to the story, like the semantics of the story, but I can relate to the feeling that would result in having that life experience. And those feelings or those beliefs or those themes are universal. And when we can tap into that with one another, then we know, like, oh, this is welcome here. Like, you know, I'm not a freak. Like, it's all invited into this space for healing to happen. And I would like to end talking about the healing part of your actual session, Dalia, because I love this work for the aspect of quantum healing. I've been involved with quantum healing and coined that term in my own practice in like 2003. And so I've been working with quantum healing for a long time. And, you know, I obviously love this work in general and the healing arts. But tell me a little bit about what you experienced with the body scan and the healing. And I also was curious, like, how did that feel afterwards? Because it's been a couple days. How's the healing been? You know, because sometimes it'll stay and sometimes it goes back. But just talk a little bit about what that was like for you, the healing part of it.
Yeah, I think what was really interesting about our session is just the way that you were really intricate when it came to the body scan. You were like very on, like, tell me what's happening now. What are you scanning and what are you feeling and where does this come from? What is the cause of this? How can we make it better? How can we heal this? Can you heal it? And so you were really taking it step by step through all the different stages of the body. And so I received a lot of energy and a lot of healing, but also a lot of insights about the root causes, the underlying causes of some of the physical symptoms that I've been having. And so it was, and I understood that a lot of these physical symptoms are related to lifestyle choices, to patterns of behavior, to a lot of the mental programming that we have that created some of these physical symptoms. And so that all came through in the session because you asked the right questions and you are aware of that body, mind, spirit connection. And that's where I felt like, oh, this person understands exactly what I'm talking about. So I'm allowed to tap into that even more and get the real answers and not get surface answers. Because before I would get maybe a more surface level answer and the practitioner would be, okay, moving on to the next question. And that would be helpful, but not really to the level where I'm getting the full healing that I can, or the full insights that I can receive. And so you were really about just going deeper and really understanding the depth of it. And so I received the healing, and a lot of it is with me right now, and a lot of it I feel lighter in my body. I feel lighter in places where there were pains or tensions. I feel that then my body is breathing more. And some of these processes, you're talking about behavioral patterns and mental programs that are maybe 25 years old or more. Like some of them are coded when you're a child. A lot of them are coded in your childhood. And so these things are unwinded and unraveled and are given more space to breathe and be replaced with with new belief systems and new attitudes and new better choices of lifestyles. So some of the healing is instantaneous, and a lot of it is unfolding with your awareness of the new life choices. And once you understand the root cause, the real reason, then you can really play with it and just tailor your life in a way that will make it better for your body, that will heal your body. So that was really precious to get in our session. Thank you for that.
Yeah, it really was special. We probably spent about a half hour on the body scan. Most people are just kind of skimming over it. And I really, for me, the most important part of the work, I mean, the past life regressions are fun and kind of cool, but the quantum healing, like the fact that we can instantaneously change a pattern in the body that's been present like for an entire lifetime, or that has been incredibly debilitating and has changed the person's lifestyle, that we can actually shift that in one session, as well as discover the limiting beliefs and the larger picture underneath it. Like, it was clear, if Dalia doesn't mind me sharing, it was just clear that there needs to be like an environmental change, right? A shift in environment for her body to really flourish. It's kind of like giving a plant enough water and sunlight and around other greenery so the plant could be entrained in order to grow, right? As an analogy. And it was like, oh, that body pain is always going to be present in environments where it's oxygen deprived, for example, right? And it's like, well, hello, duh, that makes so much sense. Yet we put ourselves in situations or environments that are not conducive for our optimal radiant health. And then we want the pain to go away. But really, the pain is this beautiful messenger that is our caretaker in a way, that is leading us to our highest and best version. So that was really sweet, because what would happen is I would ask about one part of the body, the SE would give me this incredible answer, and then we would explore that answer like with 10 different layers and questions all the way through. And then we would come back to another body part and do that again and unravel it. And each time I would ask for that part of the body to be healed if it was ready now that she's getting the message and making commitments to those changes. And also, a lot of it was being showed that it was a mental construct. It was a limiting belief. And so we would go up and work with that mental construct until it was dissolved or shifted and transformed, and then go back and release the body. So it was really profound, because it was like our session was over 2 hours after, our interview was very long too, but I just didn't want it to end. But after about 2 hours, I also saw her body kind of moving around and shifting. Like, it was clear, like they said, after about 2 hours, the body is cooked. So we just lasted a few minutes after that. And then I got the body signs that, she was receiving so much energy and so much healing was happening that it was enough. It was done.
It was enough, but also I feel like I want more now. I want another session to go over the things that we didn't go over. I feel like it's such a great tool for something you grow into and you have it part of your life. Like, I don't see quantum healing as a once in a lifetime thing, which it can be, and it can be very, very effective, but it is also a process of unfolding. And when you find the right practitioner, you want to keep working with them. And your SC will guide you on when to go next and what to ask next, because you are in that space already and you are tuned in. So I'm really looking forward to the next session we'll have together. We'll just have to figure out the coastal situation on the East Coast and you're in the West Coast. So once we figure that out, we can just go back and forth. And I would love to have another session to continue the great work that we're doing.
Me too. I really am eager and excited to work with you and also receive from you and go deeper with this. I know we're just scratching the surface, and we'll be doing some more interviews together and more conversations. If there's any topics you want to hear us discuss or any questions that come up, please feel free to leave them in the comments here wherever we post this, because we are so excited to share more QHHT with you, both our personal experiences and also how we can become the best practitioners possible and how the clients can get the most out of the sessions. I've enjoyed this so much, Dalia. You're such a dear and a treat. And I look forward to the next time that we can chat. Bye for now.